Level 1, 480. You apply for an apartment on a Tuesday. The listing said great unit, easy approval. It wasn't easy. The property manager runs your number and her face does something small, a flicker she thinks you didn't catch. She says she'll check with the owner. She won't check with the owner. You already know. You drive home and the check engine light is on, has been on for 3 weeks, and you've been driving past it like ignoring a person who's talking to you. You can't fix it. Not because you don't have $400, because fixing it means not eating out for 2 weeks, and you stopped eating out 4 months ago. There's nothing left to cut. You apply for a store credit card at checkout because the cashier offers 20% off, and you need the 20% off more than you need dignity. Denied. Instantly, on a screen in front of the person behind you in line. You say it's fine. You didn't want it anyway. You wanted it. You call about the apartment 2 days later. Voicemail. You leave a message. Nobody calls back. You find a smaller place, no credit check required, $200 more a month because the landlord who doesn't check your number charges extra for not checking. You do the math. Being unscorable costs you $2,400 a year. Nobody tells you that number. You just feel it in every deposit that's higher, every rate that's worse, every door that's a little heavier than it should be. A recruiter calls about a job. Good pay, real opportunity. 2 weeks later, HR runs a background check that includes credit. The recruiter stops calling. Nobody says why. Nobody has to. 480 isn't a number. It's a door that closes quietly from the other side while you're still walking toward it. Level 2, 580. You're not drowning anymore. You're treading water, which feels like progress until you realize how tired treading water actually is. You get approved for something, finally. A secured credit card, $300 limit, and you had to hand over $300 of your own money to get it. You read the terms twice. They want collateral to prove you're trustworthy enough to borrow your own money back at 26% interest. You take it anyway. What choice do you have? You use it for gas, just gas. You pay it off every month, on time, obsessively, checking the due date like it might move on you. 6 months of perfect payments. The bank doesn't notice. The bank doesn't send a note. The system just quietly logs it, waiting to see if you're consistent or if you're a fluke. You apply for a car loan. Approved, but the rate is 18%. The finance guy won't look at you and he says the number. He says it fast, like ripping a bandage, hoping you won't ask why. You ask why. He says, it's just where you're at right now. Where you're at, like it's weather, like nobody built this. You drive the car home and do the math on the total interest over 5 years and feel sick, and don't tell anyone. Your coworker mentions she just got approved for a card with airline miles. You nod. You don't say you got denied for a $500 limit at a furniture store last month for a couch you needed because your old one had a spring coming through the cushion. 580 isn't bad credit. It's the tier where you pay a tax on being recently poor, even after you've stopped being poor. The system remembers longer than people do. Level 3, 650. Something shifts. Quiet at first. You get a letter, not an ad, an actual letter offering a real credit card, not secured, just approved. You read it 3 times looking for the catch. There isn't one, not really, just 19% instead of 26%, which somehow feels like a gift. You apply for an apartment and the manager doesn't flinch. She runs the number, nods, slides the lease across the counter like this is just how it's supposed to go. You almost don't know how to act when nobody's face changes. A car dealership approves you at 9%. Not great, not the 18% that gutted you 2 years ago. You do the math in your head instead of avoiding it. You start paying bills a few days early, not because you have to, but because you like watching the number move. You check your score for the first time not out of dread, but out of curiosity, the way you'd check the weather. It's up 4 points. You feel something that isn't quite pride, more like relief with nowhere to go yet. A friend asks for advice on fixing his credit. You give him the version of the truth you had to learn the hard way. Pay on time, keep the balance low, wait. He says that sounds boring. It is boring. Boring is the whole secret, and nobody wants to hear it because boring doesn't sell courses. You're not respected at 650. You're tolerated. The door isn't closing on you anymore. It's just standing there, unlocked, waiting to see if you'll keep proving you deserve to walk through it. Level 4. 720. The letters change. Now they come with your name in gold script, pre-qualified, exclusive rate, like the bank suddenly remembered you exist and wants credit for discovering you. You apply for a mortgage pre-approval on a whim just to see. Approved, 6.2%. The loan officer calls you by your first name and asks about your plans, your timeline, like your life is a project she's invested in now. You didn't do anything different this month. You paid your bills, same as always, but the number crossed a line somewhere in a system you'll never see. And on the other side of that line, people start being nice to you before you've asked for anything. You go to buy a couch, the same kind of purchase that got you denied years ago, and the salesman offers you 0% financing for 24 months without you asking. You almost laugh. You remember exactly what it felt like to be denied for less. You don't tell him that. You just sign. Your car insurance rate drops without you calling anyone. Nobody explains why. You look it up later and find out insurers price risk using your credit, quietly, in the background, a tax or a discount you never see broken out on the bill. At $480, you were paying that tax and didn't know it had a name. At $720, you're getting the discount and still don't know its name. Same invisible math, different direction. You start to understand something nobody says out loud. The system was never grading your character, it was grading your predictability. And predictability, it turns out, is the most expensive thing a person can sell. Level 5. 780. You stop applying for things and start being invited to them. A card arrives you didn't request, upgraded automatically, better rewards, no annual fee the first year, like the bank decided on its own you'd earned an upgrade. You call about a billing question and the hold time is under a minute. The rep doesn't just answer the question, she fixes something you didn't even ask about, a fee from 3 months ago. Gone, just like that. No form, no appeal, just a person deciding you're worth the 10 seconds. You refinance something on a whim and the rate is the best one on the page, not because you negotiated, because the number did the negotiating before you opened your mouth. You mention to a friend that you got the top rate and she asks how. You don't really have an answer. You paid your bills, you waited. That's it. That's the whole secret, and it still feels insufficient to say out loud because it doesn't sound like an achievement. It sounds like nothing. And yet, it's the rarest thing in the whole system. You apply for a lease on a nicer apartment, and the manager doesn't even mention the deposit amount, just the standard one, because your file reads as no risk before she says a word to you. You realize the thing that used to close doors on you now opens them before you knock. Nobody tells you when you cross this line. There's no ceremony. You just notice one ordinary Tuesday that the world has quietly stopped checking whether you belong. Level 6. 830. The number stops mattering to you and starts mattering to everyone around you instead. You co-sign for your nephew's first car because the dealer says your number alone drops his rate 11 points. And it does, instantly, like your name is collateral now, worth something separate from any dollar amount. A financial advisor at your bank calls just to check in. No product to sell, no pitch, just a relationship maintained because your file is the kind worth maintaining. You get a card with no preset spending limit, which sounds like nothing until you realize what it actually means. The bank looked at your history and decided the ceiling doesn't need to exist for you anymore. You buy a house and the underwriter approves the file in days, not weeks, because there's nothing in it to question. No flags, no explanations needed, no story to justify, just numbers that already speak for themselves. You think back sometimes to the apartment that wouldn't call you back, the couch you couldn't finance, the recruiter who went quiet. You wonder if that version of you would even recognize this life, or if he'd just assume it belonged to someone else, someone who started somewhere better. He didn't. Nobody starts here. This is built, slowly, invisibly, one on-time payment at a time, in a system that never once said thank you and never will. Somewhere tonight, someone is standing at a counter, watching a screen decline them, hearing the person behind them shift their weight, saying it's fine, they didn't want it anyway. They wanted it. The system isn't punishing them. It's just doing exactly what it was built to do, quietly, to somebody, every single day. The score doesn't change who you are, it just decides, silently, who gets asked to prove it.